Shri Vishal Kapoor, IRMS, Chief Executive Officer for Energy Efficiency Services Limited. Mr. Vishal Kapoor is an accomplished and dynamic professional with over 24 years of experience. He has a proven track record of managing large, diverse teams, implementing strategies. Over the course of his distinguished career, Mr. Kapoor has been pivotal in revamping India's energy sector.
Good morning, everyone. Adverse climate events are happening, have started happening, and there is an unequivocal understanding that this anthropogenic climate change is happening because of greenhouse gas emissions. The UNEP ascribes 25% of the overall greenhouse gas emissions to the transportation sector. In India, the figure is 10%. In the overall mix today. And with the India's transportation sector booming, and currently we are the fifth largest of the automobile manufacturers in the world. We are likely to be third by the end of 2030. This situation is only going to exacerbate if we do not take mitigative measures. There is going to be, and that's why this shift to electric mobility, a 49% CAGR increase is going to happen as per the economic survey in the electric vehicles by the year 2030. And coming specifically to electric buses, because not even electric buses, if you just see the buses, they give the best bang for the buck in terms of public transportation and transportation of people, both from the environment and social perspective. The footprint of an electric bus, of a normal bus, is much better than a personal transportation. To that extent, if you start calculating a per capita GHG emission, a bus is generally, in any case, better. Even a diesel bus is generally better. Now, add to it the electric component. Now, if the IC is replaced by an electric component, that gives a double bang for the buck, and that's why the emphasis on public transportation. But then, it's much cheaper, the overall cost of ownerships are less, everything is in place. But yet, there is something about a thing being good and another thing about that thing being adopted. So market creation, market formation and market creation, it is extremely important in case of electric buses, and there are various methods of doing so. But what I posit and what the way we adopted is simply coming out of an original system when there used to be a barter system, and then it was one supplier used to go to one the off-taker, and those kind of individual transactions used to happen. The friction in the transactions used to be very high. What CESL has done is become a binding factor in these transactions, the same way banks and financial institutions in those olden days they did. Lot of other things also happened by being an intermediary, by being an agent, a bank becoming an agent for easing out the financial transactions. But the key lesson from there is that it also was a binding factor for all the transactions that were happening. And this philosophy of binding has found its way into the aggregation model of EESL and now in CESL in case of electric buses. Aggregation gives a clear demand visibility rather than a disaggregated visibility which will come at what period of time. It gives a clear-cut demand visibility to the suppliers. It creates some kind of a standardization of demand, leads to economies of scale and a sustained engagement, because the market is definitely looking at large chunks of demand coming at a fixed period of time. This eases a bit of a friction. And this has definitely helped us, because in so far as we are concerned, 12,000 electric buses have been aggregated across the country, and we have seen significantly low prices emerging for electric buses, so much so that the model itself is amenable to to ensure that the cost of operations of electric buses are almost 25 to 30% cheaper than the electric buses. This momentum has to be sustained. This friction has to be continuously oiled by either some policy changes or creating and converging demand over a period of time. I'm very happy that yesterday the government has announced a scheme for 10,000 electric buses, a 57,000 crore outlay. These are some of those oils which will ease the friction in the market. But having said that, is that the only thing? The market model itself has changed. Against a cost of ownership that had to be transferred, or cost of manufacture that used to be paid for directly upfront by the STUs, this whole model has changed. And this connects to what Shekharji said. The market model has changed. Whenever the bus from the outlook outside just remains the same. It is a dabba with 4 wheels and which carries people, but a lot of things have changed. Even not to speak of a bus, but even for a car, for any kind of an electric 3-wheeler. It provides the same work, it does the same function as an IC car, but the ecosystem has to be changed. And once the ecosystem changes, then trying to fix an old model of working into a new model will create some kind of a tension or a stress which may not work. It may work also, but may not work. We have examples. Traditionally, we used to write in production areas, there used to be registers that have now slowly and slowly given way to SAP systems. The processes have changed. There used to be a manual filing process earlier. Now it's all based on SAP. Does this transition to SAP or to the ERP resources exactly happen in the same way as things used to happen earlier? There has been a change in the business processes. So when you are shifting from a diesel bus or a conventional bus, you have to make changes when you transition to an electric bus. For example, just take, for example, charging. In case of diesel buses or any IC-based vehicle, you just go to a petrol pump, fill it and forget it, move ahead, you'll find another petrol pump, fill it and forget it. The timing was less. But then the times for electric charging are just the same. Are they just the same? Obviously not. They are not. The time of charging is higher. Even if we use a faster charging, then it will take you at least half an hour, 45 minutes of an opportunity charging. But will this system work when we transition to electric vehicles? And as was said by Mr. Bharti, probably the charging is going to happen only at homes in case of electric vehicles. But the public infrastructure may be required only for a top-up charging. And the same thing is in relation to bus. And very happy that Shekharji brought about these things. We need to change, because even scheduling, the way we are operating the buses, the time of use, how to optimize the kilometer run of electric buses will go a significant change as compared to the diesel buses. And not only this, because the model itself has changed. Earlier we used to just, the STUs used to just buy the buses and just run them. But now it's not merely buying a bus. It is about bus as a service over 12 years. Now, if we start using the old contracts or old methodologies of handling contracts in this new realm where the contract itself is a 12-year thing and the bus is coming as a service, I think this will not work. Even the ownership, the accountability, and the way of managing the contracts has to undergo change. And again, I keep on saying this and repeating this, contractual leadership is extremely important, because no matter what, bus is not the object now. Service is the object. Bus is incidental to it, because as in case of any PPP project, like let's say a highway project or any kind of a PPP project, the underlying technology, the onus actually shifts from the technology to the project management. So bus as a service is a project, it's not a bus. The project is about running the buses. So that clear shift has to be made from the object to the overall management philosophy, management of the contract, because unless or until we bring that particular element, that we are managing a project and there is a counterparty against us that is delivering that project, rather than a supply item being taken as a bus, I think there will be challenges. And these are certain things that we will have to keep on working to make the complete ecosystem work, because a supply ecosystem and a works ecosystem and a consultancy or a services ecosystem, these three are completely different in nature. And clearly even the government now has come out with 3 different manuals. There used to be a single manual earlier, about 10-15 years back. There are 3 manuals: works manual, supply manual, consultancy manual. So there is a recognition of this need that yes, we need to see things separately. Balancing contracts is a very, very important thing, because if a contract is run the conventional way, and if it is written the conventional way, it may not work, because it's a long-term contract. Cash flows are important. And if the contract does not balance out the payment security with the service assurance, and I mention here both the things, payment security from the STUs with the service assurance from the contractor, and both of them getting balanced, I think we will not be doing a justice to these projects, because these are not a single 1-year contract. These are 10 to 12-year contracts. Capacity building is therefore very important. Understanding the project is extremely important. Information sharing through all these kind of events, that is important. Again, I come back to the same thing. Unlearning is important. Unlearning the traditional ways of doing business is important. You need, a product is changing, the realm is changing from a product to a project now. So we need to unlearn, because if we keep the focus on a bus, then things are not going to happen. We need to unlearn that this was a bus that I had procured, and learn new things, that this is a project that I am operating. Engaging of stakeholders, very, very important, extremely important. Probably even when we go ahead and do these contracts, there might be a case that why only financial investors, or let's say bus OEMs or bus manufacturers, why not project management companies? They start coming in, who have an experience in doing these long-term contracts with states as a counterparty, states or the government as a counterparty. Probably that is much more important than just the ability to make or manufacture a bus and also to run it, because running a bus is different from running a bus in a PPP model. So these things probably need to come in. We on part of EESL and CSL are working very closely with the governments, Niti Aayog, various ministries, and also the stakeholders to see that these kind of small issues that keep on creating friction, they get resolved. I'll not take much time here. It has been a wonderful thing for me to be coming here. I really thank the organizers for calling me in this conference. I wish this conference all the very best. Thank you.